Some places are born of shadow. Lizzi House is such a place. It squats on a lonely hill overlooking the town of Oakhaven. Its windows are like vacant eyes, staring into a distance only they can perceive. The paint peels from its wooden frame, a testament to years of neglect. Or perhaps something more sinister has kept caring hands away. Its silhouette against a stormy sky is a warning, a promise of secrets held tight within its decaying walls. This is not merely an old house, it is a vessel of stories untold. Locals speak of Lizzi House in hushed tones, their words are laced with an old, ingrained fear. Children dare each other to touch its rusted gate, but few ever do. They say the air around it is colder, that the birdsong ceases as you approach its blighted grounds. Every structure begins with a dream. Lizzi House was no different. It was built in the late 19th century by a man named Alistair Blackwood. He was a man of ambition, with a vision for a grand estate, a place for his family, a testament to his success. He chose the hill for its commanding view, unaware of the shadows it would later cast. The finest materials were used, the most skilled craftsmen employed. They laid stone upon stone, timber upon timber, unknowingly erecting a future monument to despair. His wife Ilara dreamt of gardens and laughter within its walls. The Blackwood family moved in with high hopes. Alistair, Ilara, and their young daughter Elizabeth. They called her Lizzi. For a brief time there might have been joy, the faint echo of a child's laughter perhaps, but the hill was isolated, the winds often harsh. After the Blackwoods departed, Lizzi House stood empty for a time. Its grandeur slowly began to fade, an air of neglect creeping in. The townsfolk of Oakhaven already viewed it with suspicion. The stories of the Blackwoods' sudden departure and their unspoken grief were enough. Eventually, a new family, the Cartwrights, bought the property for a modest sum. They were newcomers, unaware of the local whispers, attracted by the size and potential of the estate. They hoped for a fresh start, a peaceful life. The house, however, had other plans for them. The Cartwrights did not last a full year. Mrs. Cartwright complained of a persistent chill that no fire could dispel. Their children had recurring nightmares, speaking of a sad girl who roamed the hallways at night. Objects would move inexplicably. Doors would creak open and slam shut with no wind to guide them. Mr. Cartwright, a pragmatic man, initially scoffed, but even he could not deny the oppressive atmosphere that seemed to drain the very life from his family. Section 4. Whispers in the Walls, the subtle onset of unease. For those who dared to live within Lizzi House, the horror rarely began with a scream. It started subtly, a whisper on the edge of hearing, a feeling of unease that settled deep in the bones. New occupants would often dismiss these initial stirrings. They would blame the old structure, the settling of the foundation, the wind playing tricks. They would tell themselves it was merely their imagination, influenced by the house's grim reputation. But the house was patient. It knew how to slowly tighten its grip on their sanity. One of the first signs was often the cold. Not just a draught from a poorly sealed window, but pockets of intense, unnatural coldness. These cold spots would appear in specific locations: a corner of the master bedroom, a particular step on the main staircase, the nursery where Lizzi Blackwood once played. Even on the warmest summer days, these areas remained frigid. Occupants would shiver involuntarily passing through them. It was a cold that seemed to emanate from within the walls, from the very heart of the house itself, a chilling touch from an unseen presence. Then came the sounds, faint at first, easily mistaken for something ordinary. Section 5. Shadows solidify, when visions and voices took hold. As time wore on for each unfortunate family, the subtle signs began to escalate. The whispers in the walls grew bolder. The house was no longer content with mere suggestion. It started to reveal itself in more terrifying ways. What was once a fleeting shadow now began to take a more discernible form. Witnesses, often children or those more sensitive to the unseen, reported seeing her. A young girl, they would say, with sad eyes and a pale dress. She would appear for a moment at the end of a hallway, or reflected in a mirror, then vanish. The disembodied voices, once faint murmurs, became clearer, more distinct. Sometimes it was the sound of soft weeping emanating from Lizzie's old nursery. Other times a name would be called out in a sorrowful whisper, usually the name of a current resident. One family, the Petersons, who lived there in the 1970s, reported hearing their young daughter's name, Emily, called from the basement, a place she was forbidden to go. The voice was described as gentle, yet imbued with an unbearable sadness. Section 6. The storm within, Lizzie's anguish, unleashed in terror. The true horror of Lizzie House often culminated in a defining, terrifying event, an event that forced the residents to confront the full depth of the entity haunting its halls. For one family, the Millers, who bravely or perhaps foolishly stayed longer than most in the early 1990s, this climax came during a fierce autumn storm. Rain lashed against the windows, wind howled like a banshee, and the old house groaned under the assault. It was as if the turmoil outside mirrored a growing storm within the house itself, a build-up of spectral energy. The Millers had a young son, David, who had often spoken of the sad girl in his room. That night his screams pierced the sounds of the storm. Rushing to his side, his parents found him pointing at a corner, his face pale with terror. The room was icy cold, and there, for the first time, they both saw her. Not a fleeting glimpse, but a clear, sorrowful apparition of a young girl in a tattered white dress. Her form flickered, yet her eyes, filled with an ancient grief, were fixed upon them. She seemed to be trying to speak, but only a choked sob escaped her lips. Suddenly the room erupted. Section 7. The unsettled dust, Lizzie House's lingering, chilling mystery. After the Millers' dramatic escape, Lizzie House fell into a deeper state of disrepair. Word of their terrifying experience spread through Oakhaven like wildfire, cementing its reputation as a place of true horror. For years it stood empty, a dark sentinel on the hill. The townsfolk avoided it more than ever. Brave teenagers, fueled by legend and dares, would occasionally try to approach, but few ventured beyond the overgrown garden. The oppressive atmosphere was a palpable barrier, a silent warning that the house was best left to its sorrow. There were attempts, of course. Paranormal investigators, intrigued by its history, sought permission to explore its secrets. Some reported equipment malfunctions, sudden battery drains, and feelings of intense dread. Others captured faint electronic voice phenomena, whispers that seemed to confirm the presence of a lost, sad child. Yet no investigation brought peace to Lizzie House. No exorcism or cleansing ritual seemed to diminish the profound sense of sorrow that clung to its decaying structure. It seemed Lizzie's pain was too deeply embedded, too intrinsically part of the house itself. Today, as of 2025, Lizzie House still stands.